In today's video we are going to be making a fabric shader in Blender. So let's just get started. So first delete the default cube, and then we want to add in a icosphere. Set the subdivisions to 5, and that is a nice smooth sphere. Shade smooth, go over to the shader editor, add in a new material and call this fabric. Just make this a little bit bigger. Go into rendered mode, make sure you are on cycles, and then go over here and disable the scene world so you get some default lighting. So for the material, let's add in a magic texture. And if we preview this, you see it looks something like this. This is already looking pretty okay, but not very optimal for us right now. So what we want to do is set the depth to 1 and then set the distortion to 0.1. This will make these lines really smooth, and that is just a little bit better. All right, you can change the scale to whatever you want. And I am going to add in a texture coordinate, so you can change this based on what is best for your scene. Normally, I would just use generated, but using UV might help as well if you want that. All right, so we can use this as our bump texture. So add in a bump map, put the color into the height and the normal to the normal. And if we preview this, it looks something like this. And if we now increase the scale, this looks like some fabric, as you can see here. So set the scale to like 100 to have a nice fabric right here. All right, so now we want to change the color of this. And if you look at real fabric, you will see that you have a warp and also a weft color, and then some background as well, or maybe have the transparent. So what we can do is drag off this color and then separate XYZ. And if we preview all of these, you will see that you have some values to work with. So we have our warp and then our weft right here. So we can add in a mix color shader, use the X as the factor, and now we can change the top value to change the background, and then this to change the color of the weft. So I'm going to set mine to white and black for now, just so we can see the difference. And then I'm going to add in a new mix shader node. And then for the Z, we're going to use this as our factor. And then in here we have a secondary color that we can change. For these colors, I've picked out a really nice army green that you can copy and paste. So I'll show you the hex code right here. So you can copy that and use these colors in your shader as well. And I want to have some difference in the first color and the second color, just so we can see some contrast. So I'm going to add in a use saturation and value node, and then just set that color in here, and then set the saturation to something like 0.25, and this will make it a little bit more desaturated, and the rest can stay the same, and just use this as color B. That looks something like this. And if we preview this with the color, it looks like this from a distance. If this is looking really dark, you can decrease the strength of the normal a little bit to like 0.2. If we look at this now, this looks a lot better. All right, now I want to change the roughness as well. So I'm going to add in a noise texture, and we can set the scale to 5, and the rest can stay default as well. And then I'm just going to use this as our roughness. And if we look at that, just adds in these spots, which adds in some really nice bits of realism. If we zoom in, this looks really cool. All right, and that is pretty much it for the bulk of this tutorial. What I want to show you now is just how you set up that node that I showed you in the beginning. So select everything, hit Ctrl G, and this will make a group. And now we can connect all of these values over to the group input so that you can change it right here. So I want to change the color, of course, and that should be the same color as is in here. So we can connect that up as well. And then you can go over to the N panel and select group, and then just rename this to color. We can put this saturation in here as well and call this secondary color or something, or color 2. That is fine as well. And maybe the background color as well. Things like the strength of the normal we want to change, so just name that normal. And then for this noise texture, I also want to be able to change the roughness if I don't really want this to be this shiny all the time. So I'm also going to add in a map range node. Just put it in here. And now if we change it to min to 1, you will see that it becomes really rough. And if I set it to 0, it will become like what we had in the beginning. So I just want to use this as a roughness slider. So we can rename this to roughness. And then what I want to do is, because this is not really looking very good, So I want to set the min to 0 and the max to 1, and then set this to factor. And if we go back, this looks like the normal roughness slider. We can also add in a seed to this by setting this to 4D and then getting the W value and setting this to seed. I always like this on top, and things like the scale as well. We want to be able to change that. If you have multiple scales that don't match up, like this is set to 100 and this is set to 5, I always like to drag off this scale, add in a math node, and then do a math operation so that this scale of 100 will become the scale of 5. So for now, we just divide by 20. And if we put this into the scale, it just looks the exact same. And now we can change one scale to change both of these textures. We can rename this node group to fabric and then hit the shield icon so we don't lose it. Alright, so that is it for the tutorial on fabric. If you like this, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.